I'm a big believer in you want to look at the net output. So it's sort of like, what's the batting average? If it's like baseball, the point is not that you hit the ball, but it's well, how many home runs you get and how, what's your actual...
Your slugging percentage.
Yeah, slugging percentage. Yeah. It's you're going to swing for the fences. You're going to strike out a bit more, but we're going to swing for the fences here at Twitter, and we're going to do it quickly.
How did you get to your intuition on what the efficient frontier of employees needed to be to make the product better?
Yeah.
Well, I observed part of this where you basically asked the question, who here is critical and who here is exceptional?
One of the first things I said after the acquisition closed was we're going to make a bunch of mistakes, but then we'll try to recover from them quickly. And that's what we've done. And I think we've generally succeeded in recovering from them quickly.
In this video, a business masterclass from none other than Elon Musk, who shares insights into his Twitter turnaround, his business philosophy, leadership, resourcefulness, rapid iteration, risk-taking, and loads more. I definitely recommend taking notes. I'll get you guys going. The first thing to jot down, join Stephen's Patreon with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment, and thank me later. No, really, join now. You won't regret it. Actually, that's a lie. You probably will regret joining because there's no way you're going to have enough time to watch the 250 plus exclusive videos I've already posted that are available in the archive. But hey, at least you can try.
Oh, look who it is.
Oh, is it the proprietor?
The proprietor, the owner.
Twitter customer support at your service.
Zach, you spent the last 15 minutes selling your new features on the podcast. Pretty exciting.
Well, the views are incredible. And I saw Dave Rubin already made an observation that if you look at New York Times, their views are maybe 1/10 like my views, just me as a lone tweeter. And he said that their followers are inflated by just basically buying a bunch of follower accounts.
Yeah, the views thing is huge. That's why I pushed the views, which is actually a lot harder feature to implement than you'd think, because the sheer number of transactions per second, I think it sort of requires system-wide on the order of 3 million transactions a second to actually calculate the view, calculate and display the view count, FYI. For Twitter Global. So it's 3 million per second. It's a lot.
For those of you listening, Elon Musk has joined the pod. Elon, how's the first 6 weeks been, generally speaking, of owning Twitter?
Well, it's been quite a roller coaster, which obviously you've witnessed and been on the roller coaster as well.
Yes, the Dramamine. I've taken the Dramamine. It's quite up and down.
I mean, it's exciting, but I think it sort of has its highs and lows, to say the least. But overall, it seems to be going in a good direction, and we've got the expenses reasonably under control, so the company's not in the fast lane of bankruptcy anymore, and we're releasing features faster than Twitter's history at the same time as having contained the costs and reduced the cost structure by a factor of 3, maybe 4.
Not only is this true, but super embarrassing for old Twitter. With a third, maybe 1/4 of the resources, a third to 1/4 of the headcount, Twitter is now improving and iterating faster and releasing new features than any time in Twitter's bloated history, with a fraction of the resources. This is a direct indictment of Twitter leadership. Old Twitter leadership, that is. What the fuck were they doing? I'm just kidding. I know what they were doing. They were too busy deleting people's opinions they didn't like. So it is excusable and understandable that they weren't able to release new features, iterate and improve the product, because can't do that until we've deleted the opinions that we don't like hearing. Oh, and also the accurate information we don't want people to see. Oh, and also secretly shadow banning and suppressing accounts we don't want people to see while we're publicly lying saying we don't do that. So it is understandable that Twitter previously wasn't able to get shit done, but it is also embarrassing that we're seeing this rapid rate of progress, iteration and product improvement with a fraction of the staff, overhead and resources. It's almost like Elon Musk has a magic wand he can wave around and suddenly get more done with less. Maybe that's one of the keys to his success with both Tesla and SpaceX. Resourcefulness and leadership competence as well. I think what I'm trying to say is, isn't it amazing how much you can get done when you're not hell-bent on interfering in the democratic process?
So, the verified is obviously, that's huge. It's a revenue stream as well as a means of identifying, of knowing that it's a real person and not a bot or a troll situation. Having the organization affiliation, which I suspect you talked about, that was an idea of David's that was great, to have organizational affiliation, so you can know that somebody is an actual professor at Stanford, or that this particular handle is actually Disney, not someone simply putting "I work at Disney" in their bio. So I think that's going to be really helpful. Just really just having detailed and nuanced verification. So of all the various things that you say you are these things validated by other people and organizations?
Can you tell us how you do product iteration, Elon? Because one of the things that I think some people got jolted by over the last couple of weeks is like a bunch of things got taken away or changed or rules changed or policies changed, and there was very quick action. And then people had all this negative feedback about the quick action without communication. But your extraordinary talent is to iterate product to success. Can you just maybe share with people how you do product iteration in this context to help them understand how some of these decisions get made and why moving quickly is so important, and just, how you're doing this?
I'm a big believer in you want to look at the net output. So it's sort of like, what's the batting average?
This is one of Elon's key strengths, focusing on the net outcome, irrespective of the process to get there. Got to blow up a few rockets to nail reusable rockets? Great, let's do that. While people are pointing and laughing from the peanut gallery, oh, you blew up a rocket, you fucking moron, look, you suck, give up, man, NASA's better than SpaceX. Elon's looking at the outcome. Same is true with his Twitter acquisition. If Elon was a typical human being who was desperate to be approved of by others, there's no way he'd be striking out so publicly, so quickly, and so often. I'm sure most of you guys and girls have seen the insane amount of coverage, the mockery, the laughter, the criticism, of course, from the people who've never done anything in their lives except criticize others. Every single ball he's failed to hit for a home run, Elon sucks, you're a loser, give up, doesn't know what he's doing, and so on. But it's the net outcome that Elon's focused on. Most people, unfortunately, are far too insecure in themselves to be able to deal with that amount of public criticism. But Elon doesn't care, he's focused on the end goal. And as his haters continue to point and laugh every time he misses, it's those who are paying attention who notice how many balls he's hitting over the fence. Most people in life and business are far too scared to even try swinging for the fences. Thus, very few people ever hit any home runs.
It's like baseball. The point is not that you hit the ball, but it's well, how many home runs you get, and how what's your actual
slugging percentage?
Yeah, slugging percentage. Yeah. It's you're gonna swing for the fences. You're gonna strike out a bit more, but we're gonna swing for the fences here at Twitter, and we're gonna do it quickly. And I think generally my error rate and sort of being the chief twit will be less over time. But in the beginning, we'll make obviously sort of a lot more mistakes. Because I'm new to I'm hey, I just got here, man. So I mean, if you look at the actual amount of improvement that's happened at Twitter in terms of having costs that are not insane, and getting and actually shipping product that on balance is good, I think that is that's great. I think we're actually executing well and getting things done. I think we'll have fewer gaffes in the future.
How did you get to your intuition on what the efficient frontier of employees needed to be to make the product better?
Well, yeah.
Well, I observed part of this where you basically asked the question, who here is critical and who here is exceptional?
So I think, in essence, the question Elon asked is, who isn't a useless fucking wanker?
Yes, I mean, really, what the criteria is trying to apply, and obviously you're not going to be perfect if you're moving fast, and there's a lot of people you're talking about here, is that anyone who is exceptional at what they do, where the role is critical, they have a positive effect on others, and they are trusted, meaning they put the company's interests before their own, should stay.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And also is up for working hard. Was not Twitter's prior culture.
Low-key savagery there from Elon Musk, highlighting that was not Twitter's prior culture. Now, let's just go over these point by point. The criteria for the employees that Elon wanted to continue working at Twitter. We'll discuss them each one by one. Are they exceptional at what they do? Not decent, not good, not great. Exceptional. This is one of Elon's keys to success, the world's best talent. A top performer, a single person, could do the work of 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 average to decent, maybe even above average employees. This is no exaggeration. There are people today who are compensated based on the value they bring to the marketplace, who are earning 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 1,000 times more than an average employee. This is not because they're getting overpaid, it's because they're bringing enormous value. These are the fucking facts. Some people don't like the facts. They'd rather complain. There's no way anyone deserves that amount of money. There's no way you, with the current value you bring to the marketplace, deserve that kind of money. So Elon's really looking for the world's best of the best, the special forces, elite talent, the absolute A-team. And so far, this strategy has worked out relatively well with Tesla and SpaceX. Just saying. The second point, is their role critical? The immediate answer for about 75% of Twitter's ex-employees was no. Now, to be fair, their roles were critical if the goal was to interfere in the democratic process. You've got to delete those accounts and ban those guys on YouTube who criticized Twitter the day after they criticized Twitter who are named Stephen Mark Ryan. Shadow ban, to be fair. I know it sounds crazy. Is their role critical? No. Then why are they working at the company? Good question. I think Elon has answered that question. They're no longer working at the company. The next point, do they have a positive effect on others? It is possible for someone to be exceptionally talented and have a critical role and be a toxic, nasty pile of shit whose net impact on the company is actually negative. You can't just be hiring and retaining people based on their talent alone. If they're a cunt, they should not be working in the organization. Nobody likes a cunt. The next point, are they trusted? In other words, do they put the company's interests above their own? For example, are they busy on the Slack groups trying to organize a boycott of the company unless they make a statement on the thing? Then obviously they do not have the company's interests above their own. Get the f*** out of here. This is a pretty simple one as well, but kind of matters. If you're not all in, if you're not bought into the mission, if you don't genuinely care, if you're not doing meaningful and fulfilling work, you're not going to be an engaged employee, and the company's not going to get the most out of you. Never mind the potential for people to sabotage and so on. And of course, are they willing to work hard? If I were to guess, I would say the average employee never works more than about 20% of their capacity in a typical job. And I haven't completely pulled this out of my ass. I've personally worked in industries and single-handedly as one individual done the work of companies who had half a dozen or more employees. Actual numbers. I'm talking about the finance industry as a mortgage broker. I could see how much business I was doing in a single year. I had many other people who had companies with a bunch of employees, and I was doing more business alone as an individual than their company employing half a dozen or more people. I don't say this to brag. I say this to point out the difference between hard work, being good at what you do, and being average. If someone is exceptional and they're willing to work hard, that is a winning combination. And exceptional doesn't mean you're literally the best of the best of the best of the best. It just means you're way better than average, which honestly isn't much of an accomplishment, as I said. Most people I don't think are even working at 20% of their capacity. And it's not to say that working your face off is what everyone should do. In fact, I think it's actually bad for most people. But some of us, self-included, really like doing fulfilling work and enjoy that over just about anything else. If you can relate, you can relate, and if not, I get it. But Elon doesn't want the people who are just there for a casual paycheck. They turn up, they do the bare minimum, and then they go home. He doesn't want them working for him. Go work somewhere else. Elon's got more important shit to do. I know this sounds super basic and super simple, yet there are very few other companies on the planet who operate similarly. I mean, hello, dear every company on earth, copy Elon's list of 5 or 6 points he's looking for in employees. Just copy it, implement it, and you will be successful. I do not believe there's a single company on earth who wouldn't benefit from implementing this philosophy from Elon. Looking at every single employee, are they exceptional at what they do? Is their role critical? Do they have a positive effect on others? Are they trusted? Do they put the company's interests above their own interests? And are they willing to work hard? Of course, most companies aren't setting out to positively impact the world. Employees who tick these boxes are very hard to come by, but the good news is you don't need to employ every single person on earth, just the ones who tick the boxes, and that's exactly what Elon's done.
Yeah, were you surprised that the intersection of that circle and the people that left was basically 25%? Were you surprised it was that deep, or did you think your intuition was like, it's probably somewhere in here?
Well, I think you could just stand back and say, without knowing how many employees Twitter has at all, and say, how many people are really needed to run Twitter? Like, let's say you don't know what the employee headcount number is at all. How many people are needed to keep the site operational? Like, let's say, excluding product evolution, you basically have to keep the servers going, and you have to have customer sort of a support function to take down material that is in violation of the law. How many people? What's the minimum number of people?
That's in the hundreds, probably.
It's not exactly. It's not like a giant number.
This is an excellent illustration of first principles thinking. Forget everything we know today. How many people are needed to run the company? Let's start from there. Now, I hate to say it, but you could probably slash the headcount at every tech company in Silicon Valley by about 75%, and they'd all be fine, assuming the remaining employees ticked all of Elon's boxes. Hardworking, put the company's interests above their own, blah, blah, blah. You may ask the question, how many people are necessary to produce approximately 1 feature-length film worth of content every 3 or 4 days on YouTube and Patreon? I can tell you from personal experience, the answer is 1. However, I also know people currently doing almost exactly the same thing with a fraction of the output with half a dozen employees who lay awake at night wondering, what if we have a slow month? How am I going to keep paying these salaries? This is not a concern I personally have. I think one of the major mistakes a lot of people make in business is as soon as there's the potential to hire an employee, they immediately do. Oh, we've got to grow now. Oh, I can afford somebody. Okay, let's hire. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with hiring people to free up some time, to apply your mind to more high value tasks and so on. Nothing wrong with that. However, it seems almost inevitable that as soon as there's the potential for somebody to hire their first, then their second, then their third, then their fourth employee, they'll do it. Instead of asking the question, do we need this person? Is it possible we could just delete their entire job, automate it, outsource it. As we've heard, the best part is no part, the best process is no process, and spoiler alert, the best employee is no employee. This is definitely one of Elon's strengths, being able to do a lot with a little. Extreme resourcefulness. And this all comes back to first principles thinking.
Twitter still has like 2,000 people, right?
Yeah, we still have 2,000 people. It's not nothing. And actually, there's actually on the order of like almost 5,000 contractors. Like almost all of the what's called trust and safety work, which is like the support functions for the site, are done by contractors.
You're doing a lot more to take down hate speech than the company previously was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like hate speech impressions are down by a third, and will get even lower.
Maybe you could speak a little bit to what we discovered, I think, in those early weeks, which was the incentive. The incentive previously was to create as many accounts as possible. And there were a lot of quick fixes to lowering all these, what people might call bot accounts. In some cases, it was people opening many millions of accounts. But we discovered this very early. How easy was it for you with the tech team to maybe lower the bot count and all the fake accounts? Maybe you could speak a little bit to that, because people have seemed to think that, gosh, it's a really hard thing to get rid of bots, and it turns out it isn't.
Well, we still have a fair number of bots in the system, but I think the incentive structure, the way Twitter was set up previously, was this relentless focus on what they called MDAO, which is monetizable daily active users. Although I would say the monetizable part is dubious. But at least things that appeared to be monetizable or could be passed off as monetizable daily active users. So this created an incentive to turn a blind eye to fake accounts. So if the incentive structure is maximize the appearance of monetizable daily active users, then it's a strong incentive to pretend that a bot is real. And that's what happened. So
if you can't read between the lines there, it starts with Twitter committed and ends in securities fraud, allegedly. At least that's what I'm reading between the lines.
So we've taken a lot of steps to reduce the bots and trolls situation. So many. And I think you're seeing that in the usage. Like it's not like relatively rare to have your replies filled with crypto scams.
I'm not seeing any anymore. Freeberg, you had a question.
Yeah, I mean, just on your earlier question, Elon, when you first started making changes at Twitter after you bought the business, a lot of people kind of took notice at how extraordinarily swift and significant those changes were.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of technology companies that have CEOs and investors and boards, and we all talk to a lot of them, and they're all now having a conversation like, look at what Elon did at Twitter. How can we do something as aggressive, as swift, as deep? Do you think much about kind of the model you're playing for other businesses and other business leaders, particularly in Silicon Valley, and how you're operating Twitter? Do you ever kind of talk about that? Because I know you mostly talk about your business and you talk about the businesses you're running, but you're having a big influence, I think, in how other people kind of act and behave that are other business leaders and run other technology companies. I
mean, to be frank, I'm not really, I'm thinking about that much, because I'm just thinking about like, how do we, I'm just like, just get Twitter to be in a financially healthy place, and fix the engine of engineering so we can have a rapid evolution of new products. And I guess I'm in sort of in some ways an unfortunate position where I don't have to answer it. It's not public, and we don't have a board really. So so I can just go, and I can take actions that are drastic. And obviously, if I make a bunch of mistakes, then Twitter won't succeed, and that'll be pretty embarrassing and sad. But as long as, like I said, as long as the batting average is good, that the wins significantly outweigh the mistakes, then it'll be a great future. And I think I'm very optimistic about where things are headed.
I think a lot of people want to talk about or understand, Elon, your position on freedom of speech and your principles. I'm curious, you've been pretty upfront about it. How do you think about it post-acquisition? What speech should be allowed on the platform? Kanye came back. He just went insane. His account got revoked. What have you learned, I guess, now that you own it? Because you must be getting a lot of inbound from people asking you, hey, how are decisions going to be made, et cetera. You've been clear. Transparency is super important in this, but maybe what are your thoughts on free speech and speech on a platform like this?
Well, I mean, the general principle, I think, is that we should hew close to the law in any given country. So the law is vary quite a lot by country. So I think we should be doing free speech that's close to the law, and that's the general principle. I think there are other things where it's like, okay, we like, for example, like if you're an advertiser, you don't want to necessarily, you don't want your ad, like let's say it's a family movie, next to some NSFW content, even if that content is text. It's like they'll be like, that's we don't, so that's part of what so there's more of an allowance for what some might call hate speech on the system, but it's not going to be promoted. It's not like we're not going to be recommending hate speech. It's the risk of stating the obvious, and we're not going to monetize hate speech. So or negative speech, like that's. Nor would advertisers want us to. I think it's going to be a rare product that wants to be next to seriously negative stuff.
I was going to say, you referred to it as, hey, freedom of speech, but not reach, because this is a very nuanced discussion. Like, should this stuff be able to hit the trends, and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, like it's certainly possible that some things that will be regarded as hate speech will hit trends, but I think it's going to be relatively unusual, especially as we are doing a better job of controlling the bots and trolls situation. I do want to emphasize, like, there's a difference between the bots and the trolls. Like, bots are like fully automated accounts, but like a troll farm would be where you've got 100 people in a warehouse somewhere, each with 100 phones, and so they're actually humans, and they're going to pass a captcha test, and they can reply, and because they're actually got humans, but it's actually 10,000 accounts that are obviously not operating as real people. So. That's stuff like that can cause things to trend negatively. That's why I'm like a big proponent of having just a low-cost verification capability.
Low-cost verification is such obvious low-hanging fruit. Now, just to make the distinction between bots and trolls so everyone is on the same page. A bot is either a fully automated or semi-automated account whose primary purpose is to distort perceptions of reality. For example, posting the exact same shit, positive or negative, about a person, a thing, a company, etc., just to skew the perception of how people are thinking, so the rest of the hive mind, who are too dumb to think for themselves, go, how come everyone keeps hating this thing? Oh, I better hate it too, because everyone else hates it. I'm smart. Usually bots are generally there to manipulate perceptions, distort reality, and to purvey a certain narrative. Trolls, on the other hand, are the bottom 1% of humanity, usually with extreme mental health issues. And I'm not saying if you have mental health issues, you're a troll, but some people with mental health issues are in fact trolls. Most of these people are self-loathing, full of hate, toxic, nasty, vicious, vindictive, petty, jealous, envious, hateful, intolerant, just the kind of people you'd never want to be around. Good thing is they live in their mum's basement and you'll never interact with them in real life anyway. These people universally hide behind anonymous usernames, anonymous profile pictures, and spend their days trying to hurt the feelings of others in a desperate and futile attempt to finally make their dad come back home with the milk he left for when they were 3 years old and never returned with. And I'm also not saying that if your dad left your mum that you're going to turn into an online troll, but it does, however, seem to be a very common thread. I guarantee you will not find a single person who self-identifies as part of the TSLA army who had a suitable father figure. Not one. So, if you're the kind of person who hates yourself, hates your life, and wants to lash out at other people in a futile attempt to make yourself feel better, rather than doing the work to actually deal with your childhood traumas, grow and evolve as a person, you often find yourself sitting on the internet, masturbating furiously every time somebody with 3 first names tweets. You always get notified, just so you can say something mean. Sucked in, bro, you lost so much money on Tesla, you're a fucking loser. See, the thing is, for most people who aren't an emotional robot, like this guy, and actually have feelings, unlike this guy, this can have a toll on one's mental health. The bottom 1% of humanity at this point in time on social media has an outsized impact on the well-being of others. So implementing a low-cost verification system is brilliant. Why? The nastiest trolls out there, A, because they're still living in their mum's basement, probably can't even afford a few dollars per month to get verified, and B, they wouldn't do it because they're cowards. They want to hide behind anonymity because they don't want to be accountable for their actions, their hate, their vitriol, their venom, and their mean-hearted tweets. So almost immediately, you'll give users the ability to filter out the bottom 1% of humanity. Would you like to see posts from unverified accounts? No. Or deprioritize them. Next minute, the trolls are yelling and crying and screaming and slinging mud and no one can hear them, which is basically their current life in the actual real world right now. No one can hear them and no one cares. That's why they go online to troll people instead.
And but like this is definitely a work in progress. So there's, like I said, there's going to be. And I did, like one of the first things I said after the acquisition closed was like, we're going to make a bunch of mistakes, but then we'll try to recover from them quickly. And that's what we've done. And I think we've generally succeeded in recovering from them quickly. And it's been going pretty well.
Was the Paul Graham and journalist suspensions mistakes? Have you talked about this publicly, about how that all kind of got resolved at the end?
Yeah, I mean, the Paul Graham suspension was definitely a mistake, and I actually called Paul Graham to apologize personally for that one.
Did. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So, on the journalist front, I think the journalist suspensions were not a mistake in that for some reason a bunch of journalists thought they were better than everyone else, and that if they engage in doxing and break the rules in various ways, that they're not subject to suspension, even though your average citizen is. And I think that's just messed up. The same rules should apply to people who call themselves journalists as to anyone else on the system. They shouldn't be sort of above the rules. For some reason, they thought they should be. That doesn't make sense. I don't think that's right.
Yeah. And the rules being transparent and upfront, I think that's what everybody's looking forward to. Maybe some just complete clarity and transparency. And you've said from the beginning, when somebody gets suspended or this shadow banning or this sort of tips into this really weird stuff that we discovered or the journalists discovered during the Twitter files, it's kind of a bummer that people are being sanctioned or shadow banned and they don't know it. If we're going to have a system, the rules should be clear to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So the something I've committed to, and we'll I think probably be able to roll that out in January. Just by the way, there is like a bit of we are not going to be rolling out a ton of new features over Christmas and New Year's and stuff. So there's like the next sort of feature set will probably roll out mid to late January. And hopefully in that we can include information about why an account is suspended or has what is called within Twitter visibility filtering, aka shadow banning. So and some of these things are like there's a lot of things that just happen accidentally where there's the rules in the system that are meant to detect whether someone's a sort of bot or troll or like brigading, where they're and then an account is sort of innocently caught up in that. So like there were some accounts just suspended yesterday because temporarily suspended. Like they got 12-hour suspensions because someone in trust and safety thought that they had posted a nude photo of Hunter Biden or something. Here we go. Oh no! But they hadn't actually done that. I don't know. It was just basically a mistake. There were some accounts that got a 12-hour suspension yesterday for in error, and they weren't sure why it happened. It was just essentially a mistake with Twitter customer support that was corrected.
Hope you're taking notes, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of valuable lessons here in terms of business, leadership, resourcefulness, getting the most out of your employees, and a complete and utter lack of ego. Despite what the clowns in the hate-stream media will tell you, Elon's not an insecure billionaire. He's a guy who's willing to swing for the fences, miss, get wrecked in the media, and continue swinging because he knows the net outcome will be lots of home runs, even though he gets completely trashed every step of the way. That's courage. That's leadership. That's Elon. My prediction is that by Q2 2023, just over 3 months from now, Twitter will be an entirely different beast. A vast array of new features and functions, not just social media, texts, maybe a few pictures here and there, not just extended video, but loads of other features as well. Elon hasn't been shy about sharing his plans. He's going after the entire finance industry, messaging apps, video-based social media like YouTube and TikTok, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of other surprises too. Sit back, relax, and take notes, ladies and gentlemen. This is how it's done. P.S. Ho, 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 and all that other shit as well. Hope everyone's taken the opportunity over the holidays to spend some time with friends, family, and loved ones. After all, that's what life's all about. Lastly, don't forget, head over to Patreon. You can unlock over 250 exclusive videos, optional access to my Tesla valuation model, loads of other content and perks. Head over to Patreon with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment. I'll see you over there. Love ya.